right, guys, here we go. Game number 1 in our best of 9 team league match between TSL and MVP. And up in the top right part of the map, we have our red Protoss player representing team most valuable player. It is Vampire. Get out your glitter and your baseball bats. It's going to be Twilight jokes all day, or as long as he survives anyway. And down to the bottom,
oh boy,
in the blue, saving up some minerals for what could be a pretty early pool. There it is. It's a 6 pool by none other than TSL.RevivaL, putting down his pool before I even get the intro done.
Wow. So yeah, I've seen some matches in GSL, and I know you've gone through it personally, where like you get into the match, but it's already like a minute and a half into the game, and it's like, hey, well, we got to introduce the players, but there's already a really big thing going on here. There's Zerglings running across the map.
A lot of times they'll just skip the intros and just be like, all right, the game's happening. You're like, oh, okay, well, this guy is in this corner, this guy's in this corner, and things are happening. The end. Yeah. So a lot of players, you know, I kind of feel like on this map, it's kind of the same philosophy as you see a lot of Zergs follow on TAC3 LR5. You know, you can get that early pull down and really surprise your Protoss opponent a lot of times because it is a 4-player map. There are multiple options for spawns. It's not always cross positions on Entombed Valley. So just like TAC3 LR5, some Zergs kind of use that to try to surprise the Protoss, and sometimes we've seen it work really, really well.
Okay, well, here comes Revival now. This is quite all in. And, Vampire scouts it, though. He knows. Yep. And already throwing down a forge right away. He's going to try and close off this space. Of course, Entombed Valley is a map where it's not the easiest to wall off right at the natural. You either have to use 2 pylons and a lot of structures, or you have to start walling in from this side over to the Nexus itself. In any case, it's not that conventional forge fast expand wall that you normally see.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we're going to see a pylon go down in the main fairly soon as well. There's just no way he's going to be able to stop those Zerglings from getting into the main if they want to. And there's a gateway going down. Yep, already a pylon and a gateway behind the mineral line right now. Zerglings, we'll see what they decide to go after. He decides to go right into the main, and the cannon does begin. So he's not going to be able to kill off that cannon, but he will be able to cause Vampire to lose a lot of mining time here. Revival definitely an aggressive Zerg player in a lot of matchups that we have seen. And almost getting this round on more than just that one Zergling. A little bit dangerous, but Revival controlling his links pretty well so far.
Yes, he is. Bouncing back, picking off a couple of kills. These probes are actually falling pretty quickly now. As we can see, it's been 7 workers killed thus far. The photon cannon is up, though, so now the Zerglings are going to have to run away. But, of course, they'll take out this pylon and forge as quickly as they can. Yeah. Gateway just finishing up for Vampire, though. Unit counting station shows us 14 workers to 12 at the moment in favor of Vampire.
Yep, that's right. So we do have, let's see, is it a Zealot on the way? I believe it is. Yeah, Zealot on the way now for Vampire, and he's just going to go ahead and let that pylon down by his forge, and his forge die at this point. That's what a lot of Protoss players would choose to do. So now, you know, what are Vampire's options, really? I mean, he can go for some sort of really defensive one-base play. That's usually what we see. We also do see players try to take an expansion, although at this point, obviously, it's going to be very, very late. And there's already more drones and a hatchery on the way for Revival, so I got to say, looks like Revival's gotten himself a nice little lead so far in this game.
And, you know, as we can see, this is a pretty good way to counteract any sort of pressure that your Protoss opponent would be putting on as well. I'm surprised that this doesn't happen a little more often, I guess is what I'm saying. You know, so many Protoss players, you know, are so dedicated to coming over here, putting up their natural as quick as possible, getting on 2 easy-to-take bases, and Entombed Valley's really good for that to begin with, and then denying expansions out of Zerg players over and over again. A little bit of early pressure never hurt anyone. Revival actually being super good about his scouting as well. He's actually gone all the way down to the bottom right, as we can see, checking and making sure nothing weird is going on as well, and that was with Zerglings after he had actually found his opponent. So
yeah, I mean, there was a time where a 6 pool would be like, oh no, he's all in, he has to win, otherwise he's really out of luck. But in this day and age, a lot of Zergs will just go ahead and make 8 Zerglings, exactly like what we saw Revival do, and then just use that to really kind of throw off their opponent's openings. And if you just make drones from there, you're really not going to be that far behind economically. In fact, if we look at the worker tab, I bet we're going to see a little bit of a lead. Yeah, well, 1 right now, but with 2 hatcheries, 2 queens injecting, that's going to increase pretty rapidly here at this point. And third base starting for Revival as well. Nothing that Vampire can really do to pressure that all that much.
And so in contrast to what we see in PvZ quite a few times, it's actually going to be a second base coming down for Vampire after 3 hatcheries already finished up. Oh, and the Zergling does see the probe, so he should know that expansion's coming up soon, but he still hasn't confirmed that yet.
Yeah, he scouts that second gas. And speaking of gas, we actually see 2 fairly early extractors going down for Revival. So going for possibly a little bit quicker lair tech. He could also just decide to go Roach Ling and really put a lot of pressure on with 3 bases, just kind of go all in from there and try to just crush Vampire back at his base. It's a little bit tougher to do something like that with the ramps going to the natural on Entombed Valley, but it is an option that Revival can choose to kind of follow. Does need to make a few lings because there are a few units coming in from Vampire right now, but should be able to defend against this just fine.
Yeah, pulling back now. We'll need to use the queens here in just a second. And it's pretty good job so far from Vampire. Looks like he's just going to go after the queen right away.
Whoa,
May
Revival.
even be able to get it down. Queen trying to run away. It looks like he's going to sacrifice a stalker to try and DPS this down, and the queen is going to fall.
Wow.
Oh, my God, no.
What? 2-hit
just
point
before
queen.
he shot the last time. I called that way too early. Really well done.
No, you totally didn't call that too early. That queen was dead, man. That was just a little bit of luck there on the part of the Zerg that he kept his queen alive. I am actually really surprised that he went ahead and let her take so many hits like that. A lot of Zergs would just kind of pull back, wait for some more lings to spawn. You might need to lose a little bit of mining time moving a drone or two, but that was a little bit risky move for Revival there, I gotta say.
And it is layer tech coming up for Revival, as we can see. So, you know, he's got his Roach Swarm, but coming up after layer tech, oh, yeah, they really have to watch out. Those Zerglings will make very quick work of them.
Yeah, it looks like he wants to go and make sure that the 3rd is safe. Ooh, but Revival, if he picks up on this, he could use this opportunity to run right into the main. Is that another? No, it's not. Another sentry going down to the natural right now just to probe. This is a bit of a risky move. Oh, and Revival knows the sentries are out of position, but he's already moved his lings back. Missing a little bit of an opportunity there, but he didn't know he was going to have that opportunity, so no big deal. He is still quite far ahead, getting his upgrades, getting that +1 carapace. His lair is just finishing right now, and a Twilight Council on the way for Revival. All right, so this could be used for Blink. Could see that. Otherwise, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of a Dark Shrine. He does have a lot of gas built up.
Now, Entombed Valley has produced some incredibly long games over the past couple of months here in this tournament specifically. So, I mean, it's going to be kind of a familiar situation. Early pressure, but both players stabilize and lead themselves to a longer game. Looks like it's a total of 6 gates up now for Vampire with that Twilight Council there. Finally, robotics facility being put down. And he will be able to start working through these destructible rocks, as sentries are going to take about 1.5 years to get there.
Yep, and it will be Blink. So this will be a situation where Revival's just going to be building a strong army that's just going to be solid all game long. It's going to be something that he can transition through really, really well. He can go to Templar tech a little bit easier, to Colossi, obviously, now that he's got that Robo Bay, a little bit easier, and he's going to have observers. So Revival just kind of saying, all right, you did that damage to me early on. I'm not going to attack. I'm not going to harass. I know you're going to be able to take a lot of bases, do whatever you want, pretty much. But as long as I just sit there and stay safe, I can use the terrain on this map to get back into this game. And I think that's absolutely the right call from Revival. We'll have to see how well it works when the GG happens.
Well, let's see here now, as Vampire has not produced anything out of the robotics facility quite yet, just concentrating on that +2 and Blink for the moment, not even making any additional workers. Trying to transfer some over, but of course needs to go through the destructible rocks first.
Yep. They're like, you can go mine, but first you have to zap this giant pile of boulders with your tiny little lasers. Good luck.
Oh, and I didn't even notice
that,
Nubatized Carapace was actually researched for the Overlords as well,
good.
So they are speedy Overlords at the moment, that 1.88 speed.
Well, it's one of those cheap upgrades that you just kind of get whenever you get your lair tech and have a little bit of extra resources. It's just good to have. I mean, you're able to do a lot of scouting with that, and once you turn them into Overseers, they're pretty durable too. So good to have a couple of them around. 5th and 6th gas on the way for Vampire. He's getting that +2 attack as well as his first couple of Immortals, so we'll have to see if he decides to continue making Immortals, make a few more just to, again, you know, stay really, really safe, or if he's going to go for Colossi quicker. I've got a feeling because of the Archons that he's morphing in now that he's going to be sticking with Immortals for a little bit longer, but we'll have to see. Revival, you know, still in really good shape, just still kind of taking bases, getting ready for that big late game army.
Yeah, he does have quite a bit of minerals at the moment, so really needs to concentrate on that gas intake, and he is now mining off of 8 gas, I believe, so things going pretty well in that regard. Multiple upgrades on the way, 34 Zerglings coming up as well, just use some of the larvae and some of 50. Those minerals as well. Wow. Yeah, 50 lings with adrenal glands, too, and there's the Ultralisk Cavern coming up for him, so right into Ultras and Banelings right afterwards. Vampire, a little more normal unit composition out of him. He's got a few Archons, he's got Immortals, no threat of Colossi quite yet, though.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I think this is a response from Revival after seeing that there weren't a lot of sentries in Vampire's army. He's not going to have as many force fields, and the energy that he does have on those are going to be, or is going to be rather, used up a little bit quicker. And once the sentries don't have any energy, you can fungal those units in place, hit them with Banelings, and that's when that Zergling Baneling, especially with Adrenal Glands, becomes really, really deadly. The Ultralisks come in afterwards to clean everything up. And that could be, you know, a pretty safe win, or a pretty solid win, rather, for Revival. But we'll see. The game's not over yet. I mean, Vampire's still got a good amount of economy. He's got a good amount of tech. So, you know, he's still not dead. He's just behind.
I love that Revival's cleaning up these rocks, though. Kind of undervalued, but, you know, this does a couple of things for him. It gives him a safe expansion point, and if Vampire decided that he wanted to try and take his 5th there or something along those lines, there was already going to be an attack path for Revival to put pressure on it before Vampire could ever start to secure it. So, supplies 174 to 129 at the moment. It is in favor of Revival, of course, but Vampire's starting to assemble a pretty strong army himself. Let's see where his upgrades are at. He's got +2 attacks, and he's just about to get +1 armor. Warp Prism coming up too as he finishes his 11th and 12th gateways.
Yeah, it looks like Vampire just wants to go out and try to end this on 3 bases. Getting that Warp Prism kind of telling me that he wants to move out with this and just see what he can do with an attack. It's not exactly a harass-oriented Warp Prism, I've got a feeling, but we'll have to see how he uses it. And, I mean, he does need to do something soon. You can leave your Zerg opponent going for so long, but at some point you need to stop it and be like, all right, this infestation's gone on long enough. It's time to crush these bugs.
And this is a very powerful army making its way out for Revival. Vampire's a pretty good one himself, though, trying to put down a forward pylon, and it looks like Revival wants to walk into this. There are a fair number of Archons here. Fungal Growth's hitting a lot of units, though. Oh, the Baneling's rolling through and taking out most of the sentries right away. The Immortals are pinned down once again. A couple of the Ultras have died, but a lot of them stay alive. The armies fought themselves pretty well to a standstill, and there are 52 Lings coming up after this, but looks like Revival gets the better of that engagement.
Well, the Banelings used themselves mostly on the Archons, which wasn't exactly cost efficient. You can see Revival getting some more, but Vampire, or Revival rather, just has way too much stuff at this point. Zelt's pushing those Morphing Archons up the cliff. They're so kind. And even with this choke, it looks like Revival, yeah, look at all those infested Terran cocoons going down. He's going to be able to take this game in just a moment, I've got a feeling.
It's, let's see here. We'll see if this Mortal can turn things around. It can actually pick off the Ultralist pretty quickly. Ultralist finally does go down. Just a bunch of energy here, but finally the Lings starting to roll themselves through. And that could be all she wrote. There's the GG, and TSL takes game number 1.
Yeah, really well played by Revival. I mean, not only did he do that early damage with the 6 pool, but he kept